Okay, so this session is going to be a lot more interactive. So, Elena, if you can let me know how many participants we have on, that'll be helpful when we come to the piece. So this session is going to be more interactive. We're hopefully going to drop you into breakout rooms to do an exercise or two. It's a follow-on session from this morning where we looked at the foundation of building a resilient mindset. Is all about understanding who you are and your values. And then this session is an introduction to fixed and growth mindsets. And it's really, the distinction here is it's your choice. So whether you have a fixed mindset, which is pretty locked up, or a growth mindset, is down to the choices you make mentally, how you talk to yourself, what do you say to yourself. So the first thing I'd love to hear, and so we've got microphones turned on, so you don't have to do it by text. So you can put your hand up and Elena will let you speak. But I'd like to understand what people know about fixed or growth mindsets at the minute. So is this a concept that you've heard of before? Let me know what you know about it. What are your thoughts on this whole idea? Or if it's completely new to you, let me know that too. So a fixed or a growth mindset, is that a concept that you recognize? And if you're shy, you can just do it in text. And then if you see any text answers, if you could read them, because in this view, I can only see you on the slide.
We've got one yes.
Okay, what is it?
It's just a yes.
Oh, yes, as in yes is a concept I have before. Okay, that's good. So it's not completely alien, which is good. So the research was originally done by Carol Dweck at Stanford University. And she wanted to discover if this phenomenon existed and how it presented itself. So the actual first experiment was on school kids, and they had a bunch of school kids, and of course they broke them up into three groups. So you had your control group, and then you had your special group, as it was called, and then the hardworking group. So one group, the special group, were told, you're in this group because you've got really high IQ, and that's what joined you up. The hardworking group were told, you're in this group because you guys have been designated as hard workers. And the control group weren't told anything. So they were just a group of kids. And what they did was they set up a series of math questions. And so as they set the math questions up, they told all the groups that the math questions would get progressively harder. And so they started off the process. And of course, in the early stages, the group that were designated high IQ were finishing fast and well. And the hardworking group were creating answers and completing through it. And the control group doing exactly the same thing. Now, at some point in the experiment, the group that were considered to be high IQ, actually their performance started to tail off and then dip. The group that weren't told anything had a fairly erratic performance, but no big difference. And the group that were told that they were the hardworking group just kept solving problems. They just, even though the next one was supposed to be harder than the last one, this group punched it in and solved the problem. Now, what they discovered from this was what was actually going on for the high intellect group was the belief system they had built was actually quite fixed in that we can solve this problem because we're intellectually different or better. But they also decided there was a limitation to their IQ. So as the problems were perceived to be increasingly harder, they stopped performing, believing that they had run out of IQ, or being actually afraid of failure. Whereas the hardworking group had a growth mindset, which meant you just worked harder on the problem. So hard work is inexhaustible, if you like, as a thought process. So you can always work harder. And so they discovered that this difference between what's called a fixed mindset and a growth mindset was to do with the belief systems that people set up for themselves. And so the whole purpose of this session today is to help you examine this. And if you were in the morning session, pardon me, you'll know that what I talked about was the need to be aware of your self-talk and what's going on for you internally. So it's really important to tune in. And again, this is a little bit like your personal core values. You don't learn this very quickly, and you definitely learn it over time. And like anything, you know, I talked at the end about gym membership. You buy the gym membership, you need to go every day to become stronger. It's not enough just to have a gym membership. So in this exercise, understanding it's your choice and really paying attention to the voice in your head is key to developing this level of mental resilience. So you've got the foundation, which is your values, that is your sort of step forward. This is who I am. This is what it means to me. And then you've got to find a way to deal with all of the emotions that go on alongside of that. And for that reason, we created this tool called the Mindset Meter. And I'll talk through the designations of the different circles as we go. But if you notice on the middle circle, you've got flexible on the left-hand side and rigid on the right-hand side. So flexible is your growth mindset. So there's always space. And rigid is your fixed mindset, this language that you talk to yourself in that becomes rigid. And it's a very simple concept to understand. And the designations in those circles should be easily accessible. Now, we've done this all over the world. We've done it in the likes of UAE. We've done it in China. We've done it in right across Southeast Asia. We've done it across the States and the UK and Europe. And we found that this is, if you like, a universal connection that people can make easily to it. So if you think about your mindset as something that shifts, and it doesn't shift in an organized way, so you don't go from A to B to C to D, you tend to bounce across this mindset meter randomly. And the things that send you from one place to another, we call them triggers. So it's an event, something that shows up, words that people use, a circumstance that you've recognized from the past, and that triggers a dialogue inside that creates the mindset that you're going to experience. So the first note I would say is your job is not to decommission one of these mindsets at all, because part of learning who you are and how you work and those emotions and things we talked about this morning is really about tuning into what makes you tick, what makes you work. The real trick behind this tool is that so you can get to the more productive, high growth mindsets more often, or the time it takes you to move from a less productive mindset to a more productive mindset, you know, is shortened by practice, by practicing this mindfulness, this awareness of your self-talk. When we designed the model, we tested it with over 1,000 different people, and they're all in a business context for the most part, and they ran from a factory floor, so just regular people who are fitting machinery on a factory floor, right up to the executives in businesses. And what we wanted them to do was record the mindset, see what they noticed, see how they noticed this giving them some level of self-awareness or improving their self-awareness. And we also asked the team that were doing the research for us to tell us if people could get stuck in any particular mindset. And I'll talk a little bit about that. And we also asked them to relate it to the big 5 personalities to see if there was any correlation. So what we discovered, there was no correlation between personality styles and the mindset. But we did discover that people do get stuck in a couple of mindsets are more seductive than others. So with that, let me talk you through each of them. And we'll start at the bottom with the designation JB. So JB stands for just born. So you think about this like newborn baby. And even though we're all experienced and well educated, there are times where we enter this mindset. So typically what you're thinking about in this mindset, if you've got the axes running from flexible to rigid on the x-axis, on the y-axis, think about that as being your knowledge, experience, and skills. So you'll either use them to a low degree at the bottom or to a high degree at the top. And so when we go into just born mindset, even though we're experienced, we've been in business for a time, we've got our degrees, we are that, that clever scientist, whatever our profession is, we can still find ourselves in situations where we're simply not sure of how to use our knowledge, experience, and skills. And when that happens, we go to just born. And in that mindset, what typically shows up in behavior is we tend to be in the meeting and we're being quiet, we're watching, we're waiting, we're trying to find out where we fit. We're flexible in the sense that we're open to be able to use our knowledge, skills, and experience. And we're open to how we will fit in. So we haven't closed ourselves off. We have that idea that we can fulfill some function in this setting. And so we tend to demonstrate these behaviors of being quiet, watching, wondering, waiting on our opportunity. Up from that, you've got TT. So we call that TT for the terrible twos. Anybody who has had children knows what a terrible two is. Anybody who's been in a family with children, younger siblings, you'll see it. So it tends to be that tantrum behavior. Behavior where people want to be a bit pushy. So again, flexible in that, open to the opportunity to how they fit into the team, but not sure of how to use their knowledge, skills, and experience, but maybe a bit pushy about trying to get their voice heard. So in the terrible two behavior you might see when you're in that mindset is that use a lot of humor to try and have a point made, find your position within the group. If you don't get what you want, you might start showing some of that behavior where you withdraw or you try to take control. Up from that, you've got problem child. So problem child, we always said, think about like a teenager. So at this stage, you are more certain about how your skills, experience, and knowledge might be used, but you haven't maybe got the group haven't maybe let you in to own that space. So you try to take control. You become more forcible about the control you want. Now, in those mindsets, you could be easily triggered to the more fixed mindset. And so I'm going to deal with that first and then come back to the three green ones. So let's say you were trying to take control and you're trying to be pushy, either in terrible two or problem child. And then you get a reaction from the group that might push you over to know it all or know it better. So the KIA doesn't stand for killed in action, stands for know it all. And in that mindset, you're now really pushing to use all your knowledge, skills, and experience. So you're at the top end of that connection, but you think you know better than the other people in the group. And so you're going to listen less to other people and try to be pushy to get what you want. So it becomes more about your agenda. If you move into know it better, you now begin to actively discount people in the group and you actively focus on your version of a solution of what you want. And this happens all the time. We see it with executives and we can actually see whole teams move across these areas. The KWTB stands for know who to blame. Probably the easiest one to spot, and also one of the most seductive parts of a mindset. When you can blame somebody else, you get rid of your responsibility. So if you were trying to push or get some control, it wasn't working, then you blame the team for not paying attention or not understanding, and you move into that blame mindset. And in the blame mindset, you're projecting away from yourself and you're pointing at other people or other things to be the problem. If that mindset gets triggered further, you could go into don't want to cooperate. So don't want to cooperate is when you passively withhold your cooperation. So you'll answer questions when somebody asks you. You won't volunteer your information. You won't volunteer to contribute. You've sort of created a fixed mindset that says, yeah, well, when they're ready to listen, I'll give them the right answer. And then from there, you can drop into leave me alone and leave the team, which are, if you like, mentally checking out of the situation or the meeting or the work that you're going through. Leave me alone is it's much more passive aggressive. Leave the team is really non-interactive. And then all of those reds areas, you're dropping down your use of knowledge and skills and experience, and you're withholding those from the group. Now, the way to activate these more effective mindsets, which are on target, high achiever, and leader, that's the green ones on the left-hand side, is if you're in an on target mindset, what you're doing is you're focusing your understanding of work based on the goals that you have for yourself or the goals you have for the team. And so you're willing to use more of your knowledge and experience and skills to get that goal met. If you move into the high achiever mindset, you're focused on the goals and the core values of the team. So you're thinking about how the team are working together, how you're supporting that, how you're supporting good values and the way people should work together, as well as the goal. And then if you move into the leadership mindset, you're focused on the overall vision, the actual big idea that people are trying to execute. The difference between those three mindsets and, let's say, know it all, know it better, know who to blame, is that those growth mindsets are focused on something bigger than self. So they're more team oriented. Whereas once you move into the orange and red, it tends to be about you. It tends to be quite a selfish view of the world. Now, we all go to all of these mindsets. We all bounce around them very regularly. And in even well-intentioned, we'll go from on target to know who to blame. It can be a split-second trigger. The job of this activity and understanding this tool is to help you recognize your triggers so that you can be better prepared for them, eliminate some of them completely, and try to have more of your time spent in a growth mindset, which is highly productive, which is on target, high achiever, or leader. And try to get yourself out of the less productive mindsets on that rigid side. Now, I did say in the research we found that people do get stuck. So it's very easy to get stuck and know who to blame, because there's a lot of justification comes from know who to blame. When you blame somebody and somebody else agrees with you, you feel very satisfied. And then once you move into the sort of red characters, don't want to cooperate, leave me alone, leave the team, you tend to get sympathy from other people once you're there. As you explain your situation where you don't want to cooperate with someone, you will get sympathy from whoever you're explaining it to. You never go and explain this mindset to someone who's going to give you tough love. You usually go and explain it to someone who's going to give you sympathy. And what the researchers found is sympathy is a little bit like sugar. And once you get some sugar, you want to go back and get some more. And so it's easy to get stuck in that mindset. And so we have different coaching strategies for different mindsets to help people get out of them. But in the initial stage, the bit of work that you want to do is learning how to think about mindset for yourself and understanding what triggers you to move from one mindset to another. None of us, and I mean none of us, stay in a leadership mindset all of the time, or high achiever, or on target. And I think genuinely it would be emotionally exhausting to stay there. So when we move to the other mindsets, we're also giving ourselves some sort of an emotional break. When we know it all, know it better, know who to blame, we're projecting away from ourselves so we don't have to take responsibility. And that gives you a little bit of an emotional rest. When you don't want to cooperate, leave me alone, leave the team, you're taking a much bigger rest. You're stepping away. You don't have the same energy involved in it. When you're at the bottom ones where you're just born, terrible, two, problem child, I think the energy there is about trying to get activated, trying to find your place. So it's still tiring, but maybe not as tiring as holding a much higher performance mindset. So you will move about them just purely from triggers of, needing rest. And this is why it can be very useful when you share this within a team, to have different members in the team own mindset when you feel that you're too tired to hold on to it. But all of this comes from understanding your triggers and understanding what causes you to move from one place to another. So, can I ask, do we have any questions out of all of that? Because that was a lot of information. I'm sort of keen to get a sense of what you understand from that, and any questions that have come up. It's not all clear. Do you want to expand on that a little bit for me? Because there's a lot of information to take in one moment. The comment on how to have people as long-term friends, I honestly believe that that comes from creating a really open feedback culture where people can kind of openly talk about their emotions, their feelings. And I think what the mindset meter does is it gives a way to have that discussion without having the damage that comes with making it overly personal. So when I found that certainly I was working with a team in Abu Dhabi a couple of years ago, and the senior leader in the team was a UAE national, and the rest of the team actually were foreign nationals, primarily from the States and the UK. And when we introduced this, it created a very different dialogue about what was happening for them as they were managing through the project. And they could all express the adjustments in their mindset and all talk about how to help each other get back to the really strong growth, productive mindsets. And once that was happening, I think it really changed the depth of what was going on with the team. So that might relate to building people as friends. Is there alarming signs? Can you help if we get stuck in one of the mindsets for a long time? Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. So coaching through the process is a big part of how you can do that, or working with a buddy who also understands the tool to coach you. So the questions that can help you get out of a mindset, and this is where I go back to the earlier session about values. So obviously talking about what are you trying to achieve, what are your goals, gets you to the on target. How do you want to achieve them in terms of living in line with your values can get you to that high achiever mindset along with goals. And then discussing things like your personal vision, what are you trying to get done, what good you want to do in the world can help you move into that leadership mindset. So it's important to get people to focus or help yourself focus on what are you really trying to get done or trying to achieve. If that isn't easy to access, and sometimes it can be, then the other question would be about if you stay in this mindset. Let's say you're a know who to blame or don't want to cooperate because you just feel like that's how it is today. Ask yourself what happens if you stay here for too long. What's going to happen to the team, or what's going to happen to your project, or what's going to happen in terms of outcome for you? When is it better to stop helping somebody? It's a great question. In that bottom end of the mindset meter, where you talk about leave me alone, leave the team, don't want to cooperate, that's a place to be very careful with. And you can't get someone out of there's nothing you can do per se. You can help with some great questions. They've got to move themselves. So we talk about the strategy when someone is there around sort of an umbrella strategy of counseling. So go back to those big questions. What happens if you stay here? Are you going to achieve what you want to achieve if you stay here? And let them literally talk themselves back to the other side. You can't really come in and try to resolve it for them by fixing something for them, because when you do that, you're taking away the responsibility that they should have themselves. So this is an important part about building resilience. So in the first instance, I always tell people, learn to use this tool for yourself. So, because you'll get stuck down there too, and learn to self-coach or get other people to give you input to help you think it through. so that you start building up your own experience of what it means to move around the mindset and your own experience of how you get yourself back to on target or high achiever or leader. And those experiences you can then use to mentor other people by telling them your own story about how you managed to shift when you were in a dark place to something more productive. So I want to do an exercise because, this is all academic. And I always say that you can't talk yourself into driving a Ferrari. You've got to drive a Ferrari to find out what it's like. So the exercise I want to do is individual first and then broken up into groups. So can I just check, Elena? I want to be able to break people up into groups of 2 and drop them out into rooms. Is that something we can do?
So at the moment we have 29 people excluding us. So it would be better in 3s.
Okay, so let's do 3s. So I'm going to share screen again and put the exercise up that I want to work through. And hopefully this will be the right screen. Can you see the screen?
Mm-hmm.
You can see the slide?
Yes, we can see the
Okay.
screen clearly.
Okay, so here's the exercise. Now, some of you may have seen this before. So I'm going to use it slightly differently, so it doesn't matter if you've done this before. So it's the NASA moon exercise for anybody who's done it. So you use it a lot for team building and selection. So we're just going to use it to demonstrate the mindset. So you're a member of a space crew and you're originally scheduled to rendezvous with a mothership on the lightened surface of the moon. However, due to mechanical difficulties, your ship is forced to land at a spot some 200 miles from the rendezvous point. So that's the situation that you're all in. During re-entry and landing, much of the equipment on board was damaged, and since survival depends on reaching the mothership, the most critical items available must be chosen for the 200-mile trip. So you're going to get a list of items. So next you're going to see a list of 15 items that are left intact, undamaged after landing. So imagine yourselves, all 30 of us, we're on the moon. We've crash landed on the wrong 200 miles away from where we should be, and we've been given a list of things that have been left intact. I'm going to show you the list of things, and I'm going to set up the first exercise. So here's your list of things, and I know that English is not always the first language, so it's okay that you don't quite understand some of these things because that's part of the process. But I'll go through the elements. So box of matches, you all know what that is, hopefully. Food concentrate, that's those little packs of food you see astronauts eating. 50 feet of nylon rope. So 50 feet, what's that, about 35 meters? A silk parachute. Portable heating unit. 2 45 caliber pistols, so 2 big guns, or handguns rather. 1 case of dehydrated milk, so that's going to be milk powder. 2 100-pound tanks of oxygen, pretty self-explanatory. A stellar map, that's a map of the stars. A self-inflating life raft, interesting. A magnetic compass. 20 liters of water. Signal flares. A first aid kit, including an injection needle, and a solar-powered FM receiver transmitter, so a 2-way radio. So your task working on your own, before we send you to breakout rooms, is to write down this list and then rank them. So put them, you can either write them down and then put the ranking afterwards, or put them in rank order as you write them down. So what is the most important thing? So if you think the parachute is the most important thing, it becomes number 1. If you think the nylon rope is the second most important thing, it becomes number 2, and so forth until you have 15 of them ranked. Hopefully that makes sense. And I'm going to give you 5 minutes to rank them on your own. Think about you're on the moon, you're 200 miles away from where you should be. It's dark, it's cold. You got to think about which is the most important thing to have. You have 3 minutes left. Two minutes left. One minute. Your last 60 seconds is ticking away. Okay, that's the time up. So hopefully you've got something ranked or all of the elements ranked. So now I want you to do something that is, let's say, a little tougher. Let's go back here. Okay, so there's the mindset meter. I want you to think about yourself right now and try to designate which part of the mindset. I want you to take a note and keep this note. journal it so you're going to use it later. So if you're feeling, oh, I really get this, I know what I'm doing, I think I can make a great contribution, you're probably on the flexible side. You're probably somewhere on that side. Then you just got to pick which one of those seems to fit where you're at. Remember, leaders focus on the vision for the team. High achievers are focused on their values, on target, on the goal. If you think, oh, this is a silly exercise or a tough exercise, you're probably on the rigid side because that's a fairly fixed mindset. If you think you've somehow disadvantaged because of language and you don't understand everything, you're probably on that rigid side of the mindset. So it's just a case of pick one. So if you feel really energized and you think you know all of the answers and you're better than anybody else, you might be at the top end. If you think, oh, these are silly exercises, I hate doing them, you might be at the bottom end. So just think about your mindset. What do you think is showing up? Flexible or rigid? Try to guess that first and then nominate a space if you can. And it doesn't have to be perfect. There's nobody going to score this. Okay, so everybody's had the opportunity to rank the list, and then everybody's had the opportunity to think about their mindset. So are you all ready to go to breakout rooms? I'll give you the instruction for the time in the breakout room. You're going to have 7 minutes because there's 3 of you going to be in it, or 2 to 3, depending on your group. Elena, are you ready to drop people in when I say go?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Okay. So the goal of the next 7 minutes when you jump into your breakout rooms is you're going to share the ranking that you put together, and you're going to try to come up with a new ranking based on the input of your other team members. And that's really important. So you share your ranking and then come up with a new ranking. And 7 minutes, if it took you 5 minutes to do it on your own, 7 minutes is not a long time to do it in a group. So be efficient when you break out. And you'll get a 1-minute warning when we call the group back. So you'll have 1 minute to finish it up before you come back. So if you're all ready and willing to go and talk to each other in breakout rooms, we're going to send you off to your breakout rooms, find new friends, and come up with a new list based on everybody's input. So Elena, send them off.
Okay, Tim, sorry, we can do either 2 to 3 participants or 3 to 4.
So you just choose one, Elena.
Will do. Okay. You said 7 minutes, right?
7 minutes.
Minutes. Okay.
Perfect. Okay, we're all back. So hopefully that was an interesting exercise. So what I'm keen for you to do next is I want you to think about your mindset again. Think about that mindset meter that we showed before and ask yourself, where on that mindset is your mindset right now? So there's the mindset meter up again, just to remind you. So think about your mindset. Do you feel flexible? And on that growth mindset side, was that experience of working with other people very frustrating, and therefore you're in sort of know who to blame or don't want to cooperate? So think about where you are in that mindset and pick a designation. So you've had two opportunities to experience mindset and think about it. So what I'd like to do in chat is, if you would, each of you, if you can, please share the two places that you recognize your mindset to be so far. So just message in the chat and say, mindset, first time I was here and the second time I was there. And just put up the letters for the mindset. Let's see about your self-awareness. Don't be shy, just share your mindset. High achiever both times, or did you shift? Focused on the goal, focused on your values. Both times, good. On target, both times. So flexible, feeling you can contribute, but really running out of time. So think about the time when you ran out of time. Did that trigger a mindset? Did that trigger you to, you could have even blamed me for not giving you enough time. It might have only been a millisecond, but it's noticing the trigger. Achiever. Anybody notice a fixed mindset? Oh, good. That's good, healthy. High achiever, somewhere in between high achiever and know who to blame. Brilliant. It's really important to notice your mindset without any shame attached to it. These things are showing up. No blame, just note. Yeah. Because it's, it's really a sense of your level of maturity and your ability to be self-aware. It's important that you start to pick up on the triggers and notice, even if you think you only went there for a few seconds. There's a lovely researcher called Tasha Urich, and she did a lot of work on self-awareness. And the interesting thing that she found is that the majority of people think they're self-aware. So more than 80% of people think they're self-aware. And it turns out, in truth, only 15% of people are. So that means a lot of us spend a lot of time fooling ourselves into our level of self-awareness. So I'm about to show you the right answers, and I'm going to read out some of the right answers. Typically, when you hear the right answers, especially when you're in the team discussion and you're advocating for a position, this is a trigger that you may notice, because knowledge, lack of it, or difference of it can be a huge trigger to move mindsets. So according to NASA, the number one thing you should have had on your list was the tanks of oxygen, obviously vital to survival. And because of the gravity situation, a lack of gravity, they're not that heavy, so they're very easy to move around. So that's your number one. Number two was the liters of water, equally important to sustaining life. And then number three was the stellar map, actually very useful because you could map the stars and work out your exact position. Number four was the food concentrate. So there's a link between sort of food, but it comes after being able to find out where you are. And so you can say number five was the solar powered receiver transmitter. So communication being really important. Six, the nylon rope actually becomes important. And so as you look at those rankings and you start to see what, seven was the first aid kit, eight was the parachute. Boxes of matches often is the one that people fight for, and it's the least useful because there's obviously no oxygen on the moon to light the match. So as you look at those answers and you think about how you advocated for certain things when you were working in the breakout room, can you have one more go at what mindset has shown up for you now? How did you react to finding out that you were very wrong or finding out you were very right? Can you give me a sense of what mindset is you're now aware of? And put that in the chat.
Tim, can you just put up the mindset picture, please? Again.
There we go.
Thank you.
So do you still feel you're super flexible, or do you feel a little bit rigid? If you feel tricked by me, you also might feel on that more closed. So you're close to the ranking and you feel high achiever. We were close to the right answer as a group. That's good. But what was your mindset showed up? Did that make you feel better or worse? So I want to give you a couple of other thoughts as you contemplate your mindset, and then I'm going to show you the mindset on the app and just give you an idea of how you might use it. So one of the things to think about is it takes 21 days to make a habit and 90 days to make it a lifestyle change. So building this mental resilience that we talk about as being successful, you do need to pay attention for it for at least 3 months. At least 3 months. And if you get it done for 3 months, you'll have started to make it part of your daily ritual. And these rituals of being reflective about your values, being reflective about your mindset, are what's going to help you build the muscles, if you like, the mental muscles that are going to help you become more successful. Here's a quote from Maslow, which I always think is really interesting. If you deliberately plan to be less than you are capable of being, then I warn you that you'll be unhappy for the rest of your lives. So if you make a plan to become more resilient, to build a stronger mindset, to get a growth mindset activated more often, if you make yourself a plan to do that, you're more likely to achieve it, and therefore you're more likely to feel satisfied by the work you do. Another thought is regular cars are like comfort zones because they isolate you from the potential of personal high performance. So when you don't do this work of being reflective, you will sit comfortably in your comfort zone. And when you're in your comfort zone, like being in your favorite car, you don't really do anything to adjust or make great changes. But if you decided you were going to become a race car driver, then you would operate that car at a very different level, and you would have to put yourself through a process of training to add new skills. So when you want to be a more resilient leader, you've got to force yourself into the challenge of doing the hard work. And this is a quote from Frank Lloyd Wright, the great architect. He said about the price of success, it's dedication and hard work. And if you think about that, he's really saying it's a growth mindset. It's about putting the effort in, knowing that your unremitting devotion is what will take you to see what's going to happen. So I'm going to stop this share and share another screen, and hopefully you'll be able to see the app. And Elena and I will be able to talk you through this. Hopefully everybody can see that. Can you see it, Elena?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
So when you join the app, this is your home screen. And that join a group or join your program is where we put people who are doing special programs. Or if you're working as a company in a group, that's where you would go in and join your particular group. When you complete your duet, you'll get this card that's in the middle. And you can see from my card that I am predominantly dolphin, which means I'm a people person, followed by unicorn, which means I'm an ideas person. And the gaps for me would be under being process or target driven. And so I always need to have other people on my team to help make that happen. And so when you go into the app, you're going to get this information when you do your duet, and it'll be the starting point for understanding yourself a bit better and completing those work that you were doing on core values. The little navigation at the bottom of your screen where you can see check-in, you can see a mortarboard, which means learning. You can see a little spyglass, which is really where the AI sits. Then there's a library, and then there's yourself. So I'm just really going to share a couple of things. So if you go into where the mortarboard is, you will get some daily learnings. This one is about improving self-improvement. You'll also get this area here, which is your duet core values coach. So if you go in there, this is an AI agent, which is a specialized AI setup that allows you to go in and ask questions and find out more about duet, how you can use it, with your teams. And because this is a free app, you could actually have other people in your team join, find out what their duets are, and use that as a launch pad to really start thinking about culture. So you've got a couple of things. You can just ask it purely an English question. It's asking me if I can confirm that I've already done duet. So I'm going to tell it yes. And I'm also going to tell it that I'm dolphin stroke unicorn. See what it does with it. And I can send that off. And what the AI is now doing, did a little bit of thinking, and it's generating an answer. So this is generative based on whatever I write in. So quickly it's telling me, here's some of my traits. I'm emotional intelligence and community builder. I'm also creative, independent thinking. I can collaborate effectively. But some of my potential challenges would be balancing creativity and practicality and navigating different working styles. So it's given me some useful information that can help me learn. And I can go off and quiz and say, like, how do I deal better with other people? Pardon me. How do I deal with other styles in duet? So you can use this to query and learn a little bit more about how duet works. In the AI section, which is this middle AI assist, you can ask general questions in here and get information such as, let's say, how do I become a great leader? And again, it'll go off and go into our knowledge pool and generate some answers for you about, so it's telling about vision, it's telling about awareness, it's telling you about core values. And in this section, you can also swipe and you'll get information like videos, audios, PDFs, other things that will help you that are directly related to your question. So that's a little insight into the app itself. So linking it to the mindset meter, the piece we've just done. So this is where, I said the key to developing change is to do this for at least 90 days. So you can actually use this tool to journal for yourself. How trustworthy is this information? Great question. So the information is not going out into the World Wide Web and just randomly. We have curated and built the knowledge bases that it's using. So this information you're getting is extremely well researched with good underpinnings. And when we set up the AI and the agent that works with it, we can set up policies to stop it going off. So you're not going to get some preacher from Alabama giving you their version of what leadership is. You're going to get especially curated content from our expert coaches. So it's very reliable information, but it's a great question and thanks for asking. So when you go to the mindset meter, you can actually click on spaces and you'll get information about what the mindset is just to help you decide where you are. So let's say I feel that I'm in know who to blame. I can go in here and then I get offered some pills to help me say, well, what's caused it, Tim? Do I know who's blocking? Am I making excuses? I'm going to say I'm making excuses. And then I can write a personal journal to myself that no one else gets to see. This is just for me. And it shows up in my weekly report that I get. So I can just say, I was doing a seminar and I got confused by the tech. Okay, and I can, decide that I blamed, and okay, I'm going to blame Elena. And sorry, Elena.
No, thank you very much.
Okay, so that's a note to me that tells me what triggered me. So the tech not working triggered me. I might make a more detailed note. And this is interesting if you're working in a team, because we really suggest that if you're trying to build trust in teams, that you also share feedback. So, so this would be available to your team members, so people that are in your team. So I could say, Elena, I got confused.
Thank you for targeting me, by the way.
You're welcome. Okay, so I'm telling Elena I got confused, but I need her help in future meetings. And that's a great way to start to build up a sense of real trust in teams, that you can share what happened, what worked for you, and what didn't work for you. The part where your private notes are going to be useful to you over time as you see your patterns. So here you can see the check-in pattern I have for April. I can see my weekly report. So how many times I checked in between the 1st and the 8th versus the 25th to the 1st, the pills that I picked on, the time of day I checked in. All of that can help me really reflect on my mindset and find out what times of the day am I doing my best work and what time, am I challenged? To what extent is the appropriateness of the information advice to the community in Egypt? Some of the tips may be excellent in the USA. Okay, so it's interesting. So mindset is we've done this right across the world and including the Middle East. So we try to write the language so it's not US centric. It is sort of business centric. But it's also, you have the ability when you get an answer to say you didn't like the answer, so you can say no. And you could write a correction based on your experience, or even ask it to be, give you more local information. Equally, if you work with us, if there's things that show up, you think, actually, this is very specific to the Middle East, can you add this to the knowledge bank? And as long as we verify it, we could. And the other piece is it will give you answers in your own language. So you could ask for the answer to be in Arabic or Egyptian or, French, and it'll give you an answer. And so far we found that the answers are pretty good. So that, again, good question. Leadership is, and that's what we focus a lot on when we build Brilliant Buttons at this stage. And the key tenets to it tend to be quite international in terms of what works and what works for culture. The nuance part is how you interact with it and what you add in can help build the knowledge base and build and help educate the AI. I hope that answers your question. So journaling over time is a great way to give yourself some insights into what you are. As you can see, you can set up. I have people I'm coaching, so they're my clients. I have a coach, so I can get advice from my coach. So if you had set up a one-to-one relationship with us, then you would be in the client list. Otherwise, when you go to this area, you can ask a direct question, and it'll come through to me or the team, and we'll give you an answer. Those answers come from humans, not from the AI. The AI is helping you search, helping you get information, helping you learn. But if you want a coaching question answered. The other thing I would say is when you use the AI, please don't always just accept the answer it gives you. Don't feel that you can't come back and say, okay, I disagree with that, or I think this, or even asking for something more specific. So you can say, I don't agree. Be more specific. And again, it's going off to try to help improve that answer that it gave you. You can also ask it for, give me a coaching question. I am stuck in know who to blame. Let's see what it does with that. Okay, there you go. So it's picked up that you're in that mindset. It's given you a little bit of background. It's given you a question, so it's acting like your coach. And also over here, it's given you a link to a video where you can go and watch me talk about getting out of that mindset. So you're getting direct advice from my experience, but you're also getting an answer from the AI. So that's what you've got available to you. Like I say, it's free. You can have your whole team do it. You can do your duets. You can see what the makeup of your team duet is. And you can also set your personal goals in here and keep track of them. If you've got a coach set up, the coach can then support that. So, any questions about mindset meter, building resilience, linking it to values? Anything anybody wants to ask? Elena, if you can share your LinkedIn. I'm currently taking a break from LinkedIn. So I've got it in hibernation because it's one of my triggers when I get just too many messages. But when I open it up again, I will make sure you get the link to it as well. Is there a recommended training programs? Yeah, I mean, if you join the app, you'll get certain learning programs in there. There is, I believe, our leadership program is about to launch. So there's what's called 7 levels of leadership. So if you're interested in that, send a message to Elena. She'll send you the details of when it started. It's going to be a coach-directed program, so you will go through a series of modules. And I will direct some group sessions and direct the learning in it. So, and the goal of that is to build 7 leadership tools for you that you can use to lead your teams that have been proven, and we've seen them work in every geography. Any other questions?
If anyone has questions, please feel free to ask.
Yeah, I've got one. So how can you relate your app to innovation mindset? We could explore what an innovation mindset is. So an innovation mindset, I would posit that it is a growth mindset. So looking for change. So the couple of things would be, is obviously we drop daily content to help motivate and get people to think about their personal development. The app is about personal development. So it is something that you could raise a question about innovation as a mindset. But noticing how you deal with triggers, noticing how well you build a vision. So innovation is really trying to break the paradigm. That's what innovation is all about. So a paradigm is how something normally gets done, and innovation breaks the paradigm. And so, thinking about how you develop your creativity, how you view problems, thinking about how often you get stuck in mindsets like know it all, know it better, which will probably prohibit your innovation. Thinking about how your mindset can challenge you to collaborate, because if you're trying to break paradigms, you've got to get people to give you perspectives that you wouldn't necessarily see yourself. So I think it would be a case of make that your goal and then try to focus your learning and your consumption of content around that process. And again, if you use the ask the coach a question and you ask us questions, we'll make sure content gets dropped in that will be supportive or helpful for your goal. You think it's better to add innovation as a main title on the mindset meter, do you think? You think it's yeah, okay. So it's interesting, and you wouldn't believe the number of times people ask to change the labels. The thing about those labels is they've been really well researched and tested. So when we did the testing to create the mindset, we had to create labels that seemed to resonate everywhere. So, and I have been playing around with the idea of changing the high achiever leader to being values focused and vision focused. And I suppose the key would be maybe adding into the description that concept of innovation. The challenge you have with that is innovation will sit very nicely with people who fall into that unicorn mindset. It may not sit as nicely or easily for people who fall into the eagle mindset or the eagle designation and duet. And therefore, it might actually turn them off from recognizing their mindset. So you've got to try to create mindset titles that allow everybody to have access rather than exclude somebody. So if you get somebody who's very process driven, innovation wouldn't be something they recognize as a mindset, even if they effectively do innovate processes, but they'll not necessarily see it through that lens. So yeah, I appreciate your comment, and I would say to you, why don't you work with what's there first, see what you learn, and see what you learn when you get other people to do the same thing in those coaching conversations you could have with your team. You're welcome. If you were dealing with a scale of 1 to 10, and 10 is I did a good job and 1 is I did a bad job, how did we do today? How did I do in helping you through this process of thinking about building a more resilient mindset?
Thank you, Tim. It was interesting.